So
When's your appointment, by the way?
last time I did a hormone health chat, I forgot to hit record. And so a lot of people were waiting for the recording and I felt really, really bad. So hopefully this time a lot of people can see this that didn't get to see it last time. And I'm excited to chat with you both. I will give you an opportunity at the end to ask questions on the oh wait, hold on. I gotta go back to the Zoom. I will give you a chance at the end to ask questions on the recording and then off the recording. So if there's something that you don't want to ask on the recording, don't worry, I'll give you an opportunity to ask. I'm sharing my screen with you. And what did I just do? Okay, this is such a huge topic. Um, and it's like I feel like I'm just going to scratch the surface of everything and go quickly through it because there's just a lot to go through. But maybe keep a tally of any questions that you have, anything that comes up that you want me to go a little bit deeper into, and I will. But this is hormone health is health. Like that's at the end of the day for women, hormone health is health. And it's all intertwined. And that's why I was talking to Amy earlier, and she's like, I struggle with people talking about at the end of the day, it's calories out, calories in to burn fat. And it's like, I mean, that's such an oversimplification because when we're talking about losing weight, a lot of times we're not talking about losing fat. You don't really know what is fat, what is inflammation, what is water retention. And it's all related to our fitness, our nutrition, our hormone health, and our gut health, and all of our lifestyle all rolled into one. And it's like you have all these different levers that you can pull in order to get the result that you want. And then also just the great thing about focusing on like hormone health, overall wellness, and just kind of aligning all of our lifestyle and behavior in a healthy way is it's like your weight, if you're working on weight, is just a symptom of the problem, right? Your weight is the symptom. And I think often we're trying
Mhm,
to treat the weight as the
mhm.
problem. But if we're talking about root cause, the weight is not the problem. It's a symptom of the problem. If your body's not releasing weight that you think is unhealthy weight that you have on your body, there's something else going on. And hormones is often at the root of our health problems as women because it's just such a complex issue. And we have so many things in our environment today that are disrupting our hormones. Okay, so hormone health 101, 101, because we kind of have to go through some of this stuff. And let's just talk about hormones. What are they? We have estrogen and we have progesterone. Estrogen is produced in the ovaries, adrenal glands, and fat tissue. That's important. It's responsible for the development of secondary sex characteristics, menstruation, pregnancy, and menopause. Estrogen levels fluctuate throughout a woman's menstrual cycle and begin to drop during menopause. So be thinking as I'm talking about this, like, oh, wait, if estrogen is also produced in fat tissue, um, how weight and estrogen and fat are so closely linked together, and how like excess fat can lead to estrogen dominance. So like every bit of information in here, there's like so many implications of that, right? Okay, progesterone, the hormone that's produced in the ovaries, adrenal glands, and placenta. Notice both of those hormones are also produced in the adrenal glands.
Mhm.
And in the placenta during pregnancy, it's known as the relaxing hormone. Progesterone helps maintain a pregnancy. Then there's luteinizing hormone, which is produced by the pituitary gland and triggers the release of an egg from the ovary. If your LH levels are too low, like as you get into perimenopause and menopause, ovulation won't occur. That's why our periods get further apart. Um, Other hormones that can affect women, testosterone. We need a balance of estrogen, testosterone, and other male hormones for our ovaries to function properly. And then thyroid hormones influence how quickly cells use energy and how rapidly they work. So, already, as we are talking about all these different hormones, you can see how this is a very complex subject. And it's not as simple as, men's hormones, which are daily on a cycle and are predominantly just testosterone, although they do have other hormones. Cortisol is a hormone as well, and it's produced by the adrenal glands, which are located on the top of each kidney. This is known as the stress hormone because it's released when the body experiences stress. It's essential for life and has many important functions, including regulating blood pressure, blood sugar, and metabolism, controlling the sleep wake cycle, supporting immune function, maintaining the body's anti inflammatory process, and helping fight infection. So, cortisol is a good thing in moderation. But the big thing about cortisol is that it's produced by the adrenal gland. So if we're overproducing cortisol, our adrenal glands experience what's called adrenal fatigue, and our adrenal glands cannot produce the other hormones that it is supposed to produce, estrogen and progesterone. This is especially an issue as we age because our adrenal glands are taking over more and more of the hormone production from our ovaries. But if we are constantly in fight or flight and constantly producing cortisol, then our adrenal glands are not going to be able to produce those other hormones that they need to produce. So this is a big issue, again, especially as we age. Things that we got away with in our 20s, maybe even 30s, are going to be a lot harder. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely noticed my resilience to stress has been like kind of in the toilet the last couple years, probably like 39, 40. A lot of that has to do with lifestyle and things I was going through during those years. But a lot of that is just that, my adrenals are really fatigued at this point in my life after just not listening to the sirens for the last 2 decades. Cortisol rises and falls throughout the day, peaking in the morning and dropping in the evening. Hopefully, that's what it's supposed to be doing. Everyone has high cortisol from time to time. Consistently high levels indicate underlying health problem. Doctors may refer to high cortisol as Cushing's syndrome or hypercortisolism. If you Google it, Cushing's syndrome is like fat face, like puffy face. I look back at my pictures the year after William was born, and I like feel like when I smiled, like my eyes were practically like closed because my cheeks were so puffy. And it just made me feel like overall overweight. Again, whether that's pushed all the way to a syndrome or not, it's just one of those kind of, again, signs of things that shouldn't really be happening in your body. If your cortisol is not dropping in the evening, you'll have that tired but wired feeling. That's not good. There are things that you can do with your circadian rhythms, like not being on your phone first thing in the morning, getting out into bright daylight. I open my window the second I wake up, and I like stick my face out the window for a few minutes and like say my morning prayers. I get outside as much as possible, especially in the morning light and the evening light. And then shutting off as much light, electronics, blue light as possible after dark can really help you with those cortisol levels. So it's not just about your sleep cycle, it's about your cortisol as well, and how your cortisol affects the rest of your hormones because they all work in symphony with each other. Again, hormones 101, adolescence, cycling, perimenopause, and menopause. So perimenopause, your hormones start to decline, your periods might become irregular. Menopause is that date where it's been 12 months since you had a cycle, boom, you're in menopause. So what we have heard of as like, oh, I'm in menopause is actually perimenopause. So perimenopause can occur anytime between like 35 and 52 or something. It's a ridiculously broad range that you can start to experience these hormone declines and can kind of throw you for a loop a little bit. You really have 4 phases of your cycle. A lot of people will say 2 phases. They'll say really follicular and luteal, but I want to break it down a little bit further into your menstrual phase, which is day 1 of your cycle, which is technically part of the follicular phase, but it's the first day of your bleed. And then your follicular phase is all of those days leading up into ovulation. Ovulation usually occurs around day 14 for an average 28-day cycle. My cycles are about 32 to 35 days. So for me, it's like 17, 18 is my ovulation day. And then after that, you're in your luteal phase until you start day 1 of your bleed again. Your follicular and your menstrual are kind of like your low hormone phases. And then your luteal, ovulation and your luteal are like your high hormone phases. And we'll talk more about that later as it relates to fitness specifically. Okay. So here's this beautiful chart. I love this chart. So you can see what I was talking about, how your period, your menstruation, and your they're calling the proliferative phase, but the remainder of that follicular phase is all like kind of the first half of your cycle. And then you have your ovulation, which is kind of like a day. If you're looking at it like when are you fertile, it's like the 4 or 5 days before, I think, and then they tell you like 2 days after potentially. And then you're in your luteal phase. Now you'll see these lines, the white line, blue line, yellow line, and green line. So when I said you're in your menstrual phase, that's your low hormone phase. Your estrogen starts to rise along with your luteinizing hormone. That gives you a lot of like energy, glow, confidence. Maybe you're like super social, you want to get out there. And then as soon as you ovulate, that plummets. And so when we are like PMSing. It's not a joke, guys. Like that's a for real thing. You just had a severe hormone drop after your ovulation. And what rises eventually is your progesterone. Hopefully, if your cortisol is not too high and doesn't eat up all your progesterone, that makes you kind of feel more calm. You want to snuggle, you want to stay in, curl up, read a book. Like that's the kind of energy you should have in your luteal phase. Unfortunately, most of our life does not allow for this. It's just go, 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 go all the time. And that's not what our body wants us to do. So really take this to heart and understand that this is biological, scientific information. And you're not just being antisocial. You're not just being like a baby or whiny or tired or whatever. Like, honor your body. I wish I learned this decades ago. I only learned enough about my cycle, in our like premarital classes to like not get pregnant. That was the whole focus. It was the very contraceptive mentality. And they didn't really teach us to like honor the way our body works, which is such a deeper conversation. So let's talk about this in terms of exercise real quick. So as you notice, you're in a low hormone level when you start your period. Now, your first day or so of your bleed, you're kind of coming off of all that progesterone though. So you're still probably feeling pretty sluggish your first day or two of your bleed. But then after that point, that's actually your highest energy time. That's actually a time you can train and have really great workouts is like maybe not day two, but certainly by day three of a healthy cycle, you should start to feel that energy coming back. If you don't, honor that. But if you do, like lean into it. A lot of the cycle syncing programs that are out there for fitness are a little bit off with their timeline on this. And it's like, don't work out on your period. And that's not really how it works. So anywhere from like day three of your cycle up to ovulation, maybe even like a day or so after, you're going to feel like great energy. And for me, because I have a longer cycle, that phase is actually the majority of the month. Your variation in cycle is in your follicular phase. So everybody has almost exactly 14 days from ovulation to period. That time is very specific. It's finite. So, after ovulation, I know I might get a couple more good training days in. And then I probably want to take it down a notch, but I might still stick to my regular training schedule. But by like day 10 of my luteal phase, I'm like taking it easy. I'm going for walks. I'm doing maybe some Pilates, maybe some yoga. And I'm just kind of biding my time. I'm not biting off big projects around the house. I'm not being super adventurous with my kids. I'm really starting to honor that because what I have learned is the more I can honor my body in that phase, the better my cycle is. Like it has blown my mind. And I've really tested this with different trips and holidays and things like that. But when I try to power through my luteal phase, my period knocks me down. The cramping, the bloat, the exhaustion, like everything is 10x as bad. When I can actually slow down intentionally, proactively in my luteal phase, it has literally been like, oh, I started my period. Okay, that was no big deal. So this is really powerful, and I think we should all be teaching it to our kids, teaching it to our daughters, teaching it to our sons so that they can honor the women in their lives, teaching it to our husbands so they can understand that there's a scientific reason why we are the way that we are. And why on day, the day or two before ovulation, we're like, let's go, let's have fun, let's go out dancing. And then like 3 days later, we're like, I don't feel like it anymore. No, I want to stay in. Let's do takeout. There's a reason. Okay, so one of the reasons why, not only because of our hormonal shift, but one of the reasons why our training also should change is because our basal body temperature changes. So this is an example of a graph. My Aura ring that I have, OURA, actually tracks this. I should actually screenshot one of those and put them in here on my next time I present this, because it is really cool to see, like, the Aura ring, what it does is it actually takes your temperature every minute that you're sleeping, and then it averages it over the course of the night so it gives you a really accurate basal body temperature. A way that you can do it on your own is like wake up at the same time every morning, set an alarm, and take your temperature before you get out of bed, before you do anything, or it's going to change. And as soon as you ovulate the next day, your temperature will spike. So you are going to not be as resistant to temperature change in that phase. You're going to have a harder time with cardio. You're going to have a harder time with your body temperature getting up. You might have the night sweats. Like there's a lot of things that happen just because your basal body temperature is elevated in that phase. And then as soon as you get to your bleed, it drops. So I think this red is the bleed. Literally, first day of your period, it drops down and you'll start to feel that energy and that resilience coming back. Okay, so as we talked about, you have 4 phases of your cycle. And this is just a little graphic I picked off of Fit Living. Menstrual phase. Now, I will say your energy picks up. So you can see this is the propaganda. You have a dip in energy, your performance is reduced. It's best to take it easy. I sort of agree and disagree. I think entering into your cycle, yes, but you're actually in your low hormone phase. So certainly a couple days in, you might feel the energy to pick it up, and you should do that. Follicular phase is where you want to plan like your hard run, your heavy lifting, your power workouts. So as this relates to the program that I created, which is 4 weeks long, there is an endurance week. That's fantastic for like your luteal phase and the beginning of your cycle. And then there's actually a power week, and there's 2 weeks in between. The power week is a great thing to do during your follicular phase. You're doing lower rep counts, higher weights. And that's the time that you can really do that. And then you get into your ovulation phase. So everything from follicular to ovulation, you can work out really hard, use those heavy weights, go on those harder runs. And then as you get into your luteal, again, like kind of go back to that endurance style training, a little bit longer sets, a little bit lighter weights. And that's kind of how I do that. I love to do sprint interval training. It's basically HIIT training, but sometimes people say that they're doing HIIT and they're not really doing HIIT. They're just keeping their heart rate up the whole entire time. Sprint interval training for your VO2 max and your cardiovascular ability is fantastic. And it's fantastic to do, especially during those high energy phases. So what I'll do is I'll do like a 30-second, like all out sprint, and then give myself like 2-3 minutes recovery. And I'll do that like 10 times. Like that's my cardio workout. No one really needs a cardio workout because you just do something really hard, swim, bike, whatever, do 30 seconds and then take a solid break and recover and then do it again. So that would, for me, usually be reserved for that kind of follicular ovulation phase, or maybe the last few days of my menstruation. The other times of the month, I'm just doing walking. I'm just walking. I also walk during the other phases every single day, but like twice a week, I'll do that sprint interval training. And that's a perfect complement to the program that I created as well. Okay. So how does strength training affect your hormones? Because I think that there's a lot of like, stigma and myths out there. Yeah, like don't train during your period, or like don't go too hard, or if you get bulky, you're going to lose your cycle. And, all of that is kind of ridiculous. Moderate training, which is what most of us are doing. None of us are training like 3 hours a day. Moderate training is amazing for your hormones. It stimulates the release of anabolic hormones like testosterone and growth hormone, which help build muscle and fat. I think this is listed somewhere else on here. But fat gives you more places to deposit glucose, which helps your insulin, which is a whole nother hormone that I didn't even talk about here. But training can help regulate estrogen levels in women, again, because of your metabolism and your fat burning going up, and then your estrogen that is getting produced in that fat tissue obviously is not happening, which can help prevent obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. Strength training can improve insulin sensitivity. There it is, which can help control blood sugar, reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. Again, great for hormones, because now PCOS, they're talking about like insulin induced like PCOS, and realizing that that plays a huge role in PCOS, in some types of PCOS as well. Regular exercise can help balance cortisol levels, which can reduce stress. That's negative effects on the body, and it can help regulate sex hormones in both men and women, especially as we get older. So all good things with strength training. Menstrual myths. Your period should be painful. Your cycle's genetic. All hormone side effects are negative. You can't work out in your luteal phase. You can't predict your period, and there's nothing you can do to improve hormone health. So let's address these. Like I said before, if you really honor your body's natural rhythm, it's called infradian rhythm. I think that's what the monthly rhythm is called. Your period should not be painful, but it does require you to slow down, which is very hard, I know, for a lot of us to do. Your cycle is genetic? Obviously not. I think they did a study that it was on cancers, but it was like, the big thing is like cancer is genetic, and it was something like 3 to 5% of the cancers are genetic, and most of it is lifestyle, which is a good thing because it shows us that we really can take control of our health. All hormone side effects are negative. It depends on how you look at it. Glass half full, glass half empty. Yeah, there's 10 to 11, 12 days of the month that you're not going to want to train as hard. But there's a whole lot of other days of the month where your hormones help you train hard. So you're going to look at the positives of like that high estrogen, low progesterone part of your cycle right before you ovulate, where you can really push hard. Are you going to see that as a positive? Or are you going to expect that all month long and then be annoyed when you can't push as hard the other times of the month, right? Glass half full or glass half empty. I'm going to see it as half full, and our hormones are powerful and awesome. We just got to work in rhythm with them. You can't work out in your luteal phase. Again, I talked about this, like walking, maybe like a little stretch, active recovery, doing those endurance weeks in the boot camp that I designed, or just accepting the fact that you're going to do lighter weight and you're going to focus more on form and mind muscle connection, and you're not going to use that to do your personal, records. You can't predict your period. You can, but it won't be the same every month. So, like I said, mine's like 32 to 35 days. But because I'm tracking when I ovulate, then I can say absolutely in 2 weeks when I'm going to start my period. That's the thing. And this was super helpful when I was nursing William and I wasn't having a cycle because my body was really trying to, and I was having somewhat of like an anovulatory rhythm to my cycle where I would have that temperature spike. And so I would know, okay, like maybe that was my first ovulation. In 2 weeks, let's see if I start my period. And it was giving me a way to sort of utilize the cycle syncing without actually having a cycle because I was still looking at basal body temperature. And that was a huge piece of it for me. There's nothing you can do to improve hormone health. Let's get to that. Well, strength training, obviously. Sorry, I'm moving super fast. I just want to like leave time for questions at the end if you guys have them. Um, okay, endocrine disrupting chemicals. Synthetic chemicals, natural chemicals, pesticides, glyphosate, like all the artificial dyes and sweeteners and all the things. But it's all the things that are bad for all other parts of our health. So if we're on this journey, it's like with anything else, start reading the labels on your clothing, on your shampoos, on your soaps, on your deodorants, on your candles, on like anything that comes into your house. Just Google it if you're not sure, like what you should be looking for. We just got a new couch and I Googled like, chemicals on new furniture. And they actually said you're supposed to leave your couch outside for like, I don't know, it was like 72 hours or something like that before you bring it in your house, which who does that? But I, opened up all the windows, all the doors, turned on all the air purifiers, like let all of the air flow through the house because you take it out of all that plastic and the smell is super strong. So yeah, just being mindful of everything you bring into contact with your body, everything you're breathing in. It's overwhelming, but if you just start with one thing, like, just eating organic, especially with grains because of all the glyphosate, or just looking at your soaps or your shampoos. Like just look at one thing at a time and, kind of make a goal each month of things that you're going to go through as you run out. Um, and yeah, it makes a big impact over time. Lifestyle habits such as chronic stress, poor nutrition, and being overweight or obese. Lifestyle is probably the biggest thing. Um, just breathing properly, slowing down. It's probably the hardest thing for most of us to do. Getting out in the sun in the morning. Medical conditions like hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, Cushing's disease, and a bunch of other things. Growth on your endocrine glands, hormonal replacement, or birth control medications. Um, I will not deep dive into that, but if you at all are listening to the podcast, if you're at all reading the books, birth control, you do not have any of the stuff I've talked about, any of the hormone symphony, any of the basal body temperature change. You don't have any of that if you're on hormonal birth control. It regulates your period by giving you like an artificial one. So you might think of that as a good thing, but it's really not because you actually don't have any clue what kind of hormone health you have if you're not tracking your cycle in some way, and you can't track your cycle if you're on birth control medications. Hormonal replacement therapy, I'm not sure how I feel about that just yet, especially as we age. Some are really pro, some are really con. I got to do more research on that. But it obviously interferes. It obviously makes an impact, right? So it's something to consider that could make an impact on your health. Okay, so signs that your hormones might need some help: irregular, painful, heavy periods, or lack of ovulation and menstruation, chronic fatigue, poor sleep, brain fog, tired but wired. Kind of address that with like the cortisol. Skin issues, acne, dry skin, puffy face or fingers, mood swings, low stress tolerance, uncontrollable rage. I'm gonna high irritability, digestive issues, and again, like gut health, hormone health, like they're all intertwined. Trouble losing weight, uncontrollable weight gain, bloat, inflammation, all of those things are signs that you need to work on your hormones. So it's like if you have any of this and you're like, the problem is I need to lose weight, you're looking at like you're aiming at the wrong bullseye, right? Um, take the arrow off of the weight and focus it on the hormones, the lifestyle, the chemicals, all of that stuff to, and if you need to, like again, see a functional medicine doctor. I would say like if you spend 6 months kind of going through all this stuff and feeling like, no, I'm training right, I'm eating right, I've eliminated all these toxins, yeah, definitely seek help. um Lifestyle changes. So I kind of went over all of these again. I'm not going to go over them another time. I didn't really talk about plastics, microplastics, and air purifiers are awesome. We have one in every single room. The humidity, you can get a cute little humidity monitor to put on your fridge, and it tells you the humidity in your home. If your home is too dry, like that can keep a lot of particles floating in the air. If it's too humid, then you might have mold in your house. So that's a good one too. Um, I think we kind of went over all the rest of these. So if you, let's just say you're looking at all these lists and you're like, wow, there's a lot of things, plastics and scents and fragrances and dyes and yeah, looking at your clothing, are you wearing natural fibers? There's a lot of things there. If you've been having some of those habits for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you probably need some help with detoxing, and your liver is a detox organ. You actually have a lot of different detox pathways. Sweat, actually your cycle, urine, there's a lot of different detox pathways there. And so there's different ways to help your body detox. That's something else I'm really excited about seeing the functional doctor about, because that's something that she specifically mentioned to me. But there are things you can do at home: managing your stress, going out and breaking a sweat, doing those like sprint intervals I was talking about. You can drink plenty of water, consume high quality protein, which again, high quality protein helps you build that muscle and all of the positive benefits that come with that. Okay, here's some accounts to follow that are great. Dr. Mindy Pels, Dr. Will Cole, Little Red Health, Dr. Josh Axe, Dr. Casey Means, Dr. Stacy Sims, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. There are other ones. I share podcasts and accounts and all things all the time. But Little Ray of Health really, really focuses. I think she's the one that I got these graphics from. She really, really focuses on hormone health, specifically for the cycling woman, because that's the season of life that she's in. Dr. Mindy Pels also very much focuses on hormone health. She's a big proponent of fasting. She's really not talking to the training woman. So I will say that there's some stuff that she recommends that I have to remind myself, no, 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 she's not talking to the woman who's like strength training every single day, specifically when it comes to fasting. So I kind of balance her advice with like Dr. Stacy Sims' advice, and they have actually a lot of great videos that they've collaborated on that kind of explain the differences in the people that they treat. Dr. Will Cole's awesome. I put Dr. Josh Axe on there. They're all great. So there's so much more to all these topics, but I think just an awareness that our body works this way, and that we need to like respect how our body works, is a great start. I will end my screen share and open you guys up and ask you guys if you have any questions. And feel free as well, Amy, if you wanted to ask any other questions at all about the boot camp, because I know you just purchased the boot camp videos. Feel free to ask or contribute in any way.
Yeah, I guess I don't have any specific questions right now. I don't know. It's just a lot of information. A lot is stuff I know and have heard. A little bit of new stuff, so it's kind of fun. I don't know. It's just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you worked with me with Beachbody in the past, but
Yes.
how has your training regimen been like recently until now?
I pretty much stopped for a while, and yes, I'm getting back into it slowly.
Good, good. I mean,
So,
that's
I
like
mean, I feel like
first
that's what
step.
happens with me. It's up and down and up and down, and that's what I need to stop. But I don't know.
Yeah, I
I feel
think
like I don't get anywhere.
right. And I think gosh, it's one of those things where like you see it on social media all the time. These like, I lost 60 pounds in 2 months. And
Hmm.
like you see these all the time. And so by comparison, you're like, well, what the heck is wrong with me? Because I feel like I'm doing it
Right.
right. And there's just like a real problem in the industry right now that's making me kind of irate because if you're doing, first of all, like if you're on a weight loss drug, like 60% of what you're losing is muscle.
Hmm.
So let's talk about you're not going to take that drug forever. And then as
Right.
you come off of that drug, you've lost all this muscle. So what have you
Hmm.
done to your metabolism and
Yeah.
bone density? And so you will rebound back to more than you were
Fast.
before.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you do nutrition only without training, it's something like 20% of what you lose is your
Hmm.
musculoskeleton skeletal structure. So
Hmm.
doing it the long game way, where you're kind of focusing on body recomposition, it is a long game way. And there's so much that happens too, like when you first start training, like a little bit of inflammation,
Hmm.
your metabolism's kind of adjusting. You might feel a little bit hungrier. You got to figure out how to like fuel with more good whole foods. And so I think where the focus has to be is to understand that every single year we are losing like, or it's like every decade you lose 5 to 8% of your
Yeah.
muscle after 35, right?
Yep.
So that's a lot. Like every year we're losing a 0.5% of our muscle. And if we
Hmm.
don't train to keep it, we're going to lose it. And I think if we can just like focus on that and focus on the fact that regardless of the results, regardless of, how our aesthetics are looking or whatever, you will be better off if you do some strength training consistently, you know, over the next 5, 10,
Yeah, and I
right?
think I can consistently do the weight training. I do feel much better when I'm doing it, and I enjoy it to a point.
Yeah.
It's for me. I guess the biggest struggle is the eating and like what to eat. You hear this, you hear that, and you try this and you try that, and you just I don't know. Do I not try long enough? Do I? I don't know. It's just frustrating.
Yes, yes. And I think if you get the weight training routine, my next step would be sandwiching your strength training routine with fueling before and fueling after so that that
Hmm.
becomes like this hub of your health routine.
Hmm.
And to just give like some basic recommendations, like 15 grams of protein. Like try to get something with 15 grams of protein before you work out. Whatever.
Yeah, I did try that last week, and I get up so early that I literally like to
Oh, I
just
can't
go.
imagine.
I just go, it's like I did like a little protein shake with 15 grams, and I'm like, I felt like it was almost a waste. Like I didn't need it.
Yeah.
So
And
then
then
I'm
it's like
like,
extra
today I
calories.
didn't, and I felt good without it, but I ate immediately after. So I don't know.
Well, and then yeah, that's the next thing is then like kind of 30 grams after. So
Yep.
you get like the 15 grams before. I don't always get 15 grams before, and I like my go-to if I'm just like in a rush is like one of those like dried meat sticks. Like I'll
Yep.
just munch on that like as I'm like getting in the gym, like munching on this dried meat stick. But it's just a little something because and like we didn't even get into this, but like the effect on your if you're not hungry in the morning, that means your body's running on cortisol. And
Which normally I am, but I
yeah,
think that's just so early.
yeah, I mean, 3 o'clock is insanely early. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, it's 3:30, 4 o'clock. That's why I go to bed early.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would still say, like, for the sake of your hormones, like, maybe you can't get 15 grams. Maybe you're like, it's like a waste. I'm just gonna have
Yeah.
like
It's
half
just
a
a little
sausage or
something.
something. Just a little
Yeah.
something to like cool your body to like, there's fuel coming in. Like, don't feel,
Hmm.
don't pump the adrenaline. Like, don't get my stress hormones running. There's
Right.
coming in. Maybe pair that with like just like a tiny piece of banana or something. Like, you got
Hmm.
a little bit of glucose, you got a little bit of carbohydrate
Protein. Hmm.
and a little bit of protein. And then like, yeah, plan within that like 1 hour window after you work out to get those 30 grams of protein. And then you're kind of set really for a solid start to your day. You're already
Yeah.
like 35, 40 grams of protein in. So, I
Hmm.
mean, that's like a third of your eating routine is really solid there.
Hmm.
And then just like I think the key is like to just keep going. Like there's just always
Yeah, I think
more.
so.
Yeah, there's always more we can learn, always more we can layer in.
Hmm.
But just understanding there's inherent value in that routine that you have in the morning for your mental and physical health um,
Hmm.
is so, so key. And then I think for me, for the most part, with the whole like weight loss, anytime I've lost weight, it has not been about calories in, calories out. Now,
Right.
me, if I'm cleaning up my diet, just like as like a side, like as you know, an unintentional consequence, maybe there's less calories coming in, but it's almost always been about figuring out something that's causing inflammation, you know, not staying up so late and getting better sleep, or like
Hmm.
it's always been about something, some other reason why like my body won't release the weight, my gut health, my hormone health,
Hmm.
whatever, my hormones. It's I think for women, it's not, we know how to eat less. Like
Right.
we know how to eat less. Like that's not our problem. So that's why it's like, yeah, it is calories in, calories out, but I almost like wouldn't even focus on that at
Right.
all.
Okay.
Like,
Good, because I don't like tracking it.
yeah, don't, I mean, if anything, a couple days of am I getting in like 100+ grams of protein? I shoot for
Yeah,
145
that's
grams
hard.
a day. It is a
Yeah.
little hard, but if you can kind of see what that looks like, and then 25 grams of fiber, and then,
Hmm.
am I at least eating healthy fats? Am I getting some omega 3s? Am I, eating some
Right.
non-inflammatory fats, avocado,
Hmm.
nuts, things like that? Um, and am I cutting out the more inflammatory types of foods?
Right.
Is
Right.
really key, which is anything processed, basically.
Yep.
It's like, but yeah, I do think with age, sometimes I don't know how old you are, Amy. I'm assuming you're about my age because we've known each
Yeah,
other.
I'm 45, so
Yeah.
I'm hitting that
Yeah, I just
where
think as
everything's
we
more
get older,
difficult.
that inflammation is just real intolerant.
Yes.
Our like toxic load buckets have just like filled up so much that I feel
Hmm.
like what I could do in 4 weeks of elimination of processed foods, it now takes me 4 months to get the
Oh.
same like kind of result. And
Hmm.
it's just annoying, but it's worth it.
Yeah, in the long run.
Yeah. How about you, Rachel? Do you have anything to like add in or like anything to share or ask?
I mean, no, not really. I think it's great. I've been looking at hormones a lot, and I've gotten a couple tests run. Like there's this thing called the Dutch test. My cortisol was real high,
Mm.
and I felt like it. So, and I'm not hungry in the morning, so that's interesting that you say that. Like, oh, you're running on cortisol. I'm all, yeah, no, I'm not denying it. Yeah, it's
Yes.
most likely. That's what I'm
Oh,
trying to figure out is how to not do that.
the podcast I just listened to, I will find it. It was so good. And he talked about that. That was like right away. Just like, and what if you don't wake up hungry? You're running on cortisol. That's what you're doing then. If you're not hungry in the morning. And he talked about how like your organs wake up. And this is why I feel bad for you, Amy, because it's like, I don't remember what the organs were because I'm not a doctor, but it was like at like 6 o'clock, basically like the bowels and the intestines are kind of like come on, like which for me is like clockwork. And then by like 7 o'clock, your body's like, you put something inside, like I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
And if your body's not doing that, then something is off with your circadian rhythms or your hormones. And maybe, to some extent, you just taught your body that food's not coming in at that time. So
Mhm.
it knows that food's not coming in at that time. So it knows to give you that pump of cortisol to get you going. And so you can't break that cycle until you set that habit of maybe you don't want to start with like a big heavy breakfast, but like literally like half a sausage, just a little something to clue your body into like you can wake up now and run on this fuel and this is the new habit that I'm setting. Even worse if you eat nothing and then drink caffeine. I don't know if anyone has a caffeinated beverage in the morning, but that's like a double whammy. So worst thing you can do, not eat, drink caffeine, and then work out on an empty stomach. Like that would be like your cortisol, adrenal fatigue, like triple whammy. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's bad. And then two, and I'm not going to remember the words that words to use, but essentially, like the longer you don't eat after a workout, like the more into that stress state you will get. So like refueling right after, and also because our protein synthesis needs to start after we work out in order to repair and for us to build muscle and strength. So your workout is essentially like a waste if you're not going to eat for 2 or 3 hours after your workout. And that's so important. I don't think a lot of people realize that because we're so brainwashed for calories in, calories out. Like, oh, good, go me. I didn't eat anything and it's 11 and I've already burned 600 calories. Like, you see this on social media and it's just not healthy and it's not good. Um, so, yeah, trying to break that mentality is hard, but we need to do it for us and for the next generation for sure.
So can you give us an example of like what you eat before and after your
Yeah.
workout?
So if
Because
I
what time do you work out, and then what's your before and after look like?
I'll give you an ideal timeline. Ideally, I wake up at 5:30 and I listen to my Bible in Your podcast. I wake up slow. And then by 6 o'clock, everything's moving. I like start my day, get ready for the day, all of that. And then I'm usually out in the kitchen by like 6:30, 6:45. I start preparing breakfast for me and the whatever little stragglers are up already. It usually consists of like some breakfast sausage or egg and then about like half a banana. I just like a little bit of carbohydrate in the morning. That's just me personally. I don't know that it's absolutely necessary unless you're doing cardio, but I do most of it is meat or eggs. And then I do have a pre-workout drink. It's 100 milligrams of caffeine, also has quercetin and beta alanine in it. It's a mental thing. Like, I don't know that I absolutely need it, but it's like a mental thing where I feel like I need it to work out hard. So yeah, I just have my breakfast meat, my little bit of banana, and then I work out. My workouts are like 30 to 40 minutes long, depending. And then right after that, I'm making my protein shake, which has like 40 grams of protein. I add avocado, cauliflower, spinach, peanut butter. So there's like fat, protein, fiber, like all in there. And that's like when our homeschool day starts. Because if I don't get that before the homeschool day starts, I'm starving myself until noon. And so yeah, that's kind of my sandwich. That's my routine. Like if I get that routine, I've already got a good amount of protein, even some good carbohydrates, some good fiber. I don't think that shakes are ideal. Like I think most people would agree if you eat whole foods, you're going to get better results. But I also think like season of life, like
Yeah.
I got to sit down and like be really engaged right after my workout time. So, I think you kind of
Yeah.
just weigh that. If I were to rely on whole foods, I probably wouldn't end up eating right away. And sitting down. So that's what works for me. And I pretty much had that routine like forever, more or less. And sometimes I work out in the afternoon. If I work out in the afternoon, all of that shifts to the afternoon, more or
Mhm.
less. And I would still probably have my breakfast meat and my banana. And then I would probably have like a bigger brunch type of a meal at like 10:30, and then work out after that. So that's kind of what I would do if I had to work out later. But it's not, it's like so simple. I think there's so many things that make it seem more complicated than it is, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's just eat a little bit of protein. Like I said, like in a pinch, like grab a beef stick. Like I like to enjoy my food, but at some point, food is fuel. Like it's
Yeah.
protein, and just shove it, just shove it down your gullet. Just eat it. Yeah. So that's kind of what I do. I also put collagen in my shake. What else do I put in my shake? I just put ridiculous amount of stuff in my shake. It's kind of insane, but it keeps me kind of just getting all the things.
Yeah. Good.
Any other questions? I will stop the recording here. If anyone watching the recording has questions, post them in the Facebook group. Message me. I'm happy to answer them.